Hello aspirants, welcome to UPSC Geek by NRG. I'm hoping that you all are doing fine and striving each day. Okay, so today we will be starting with the next part or next philosopher of Western political thought, that is Aristotle. Very important philosopher to learn about. Okay, and again we will follow the same method like as we have done by bifurcating the entire Plato part into different parts so as to deliver the content very much feasibly and make the processing of the content for you people very much conveniently. Okay, so again we will be doing in several parts. Okay, as we will see in further table of content, these are the mainly list of theories that we will be dealing with, and each theory will contain each sub part. Okay, so like we'll start with life and time of Aristotle, then his theory of knowledge or idea, then again Aristotle's theory of state, theory of citizenship, theory of slavery, theory of property, theory of constitution, theory of revolution and justice, and Aristotle on law. Okay, so various commentaries on of Aristotle on different topics basically, and then we will be seeing a list of questions which you can answer after attempting the lecture. Okay, so trust me, again it is one of the most interesting topic of the PSIR, so we will be completing Aristotle in parts. Okay, so without any further ado, let's begin with the session. And before moving further, people, I'd like to have you all subscribe to UPSC Geek and also like the video. Okay, so let's start with the session. So let's start with the first topic, that is life and time of Aristotle. Okay, so this is the basic introduction which can be attempted in answers. Okay, like whenever a question related to Aristotle is asked, these are the basic introduction which can be attempted about Aristotle. Okay, so Aristotle was born around 384 BC in Macedonia. Okay, in present day Macedonia, and his city name was Stagira. Okay, Stagira is a city state of those time. In today's present context, it is in Macedonia. Okay, in northern Greece. So Aristotle is known for more than one reason. Okay, so let's see what are the reason for which Aristotle was known and is known. Okay, so at the age of 17 he was sent to Athens to pursue higher education. Okay, so basically his dad was a physician, and hence with his support he was sent to the Athens in the institution of Plato, that is academy, when he was 17. Okay, almost like even younger to all of your age. Okay, he was sent to a complete different city state to pursue the education in academic. Okay, which was one of the most prominent college of his time. Okay, so there he studied under Plato in the academy. After his education he continued there as an instructor. So after finishing his education, he continued serving in academy as the instructor. Okay, that's why Plato also called Aristotle as the mind of academy, right? The main brain of academy, right? So after spending around 20 years at the academy, Aristotle went back to Macedonia, right, where he became a tutor to king's son Alexander. Okay, so basically after finishing his academia in academy around 20 years, he went back to his place, and he started tutoring to the Alexander the Great. Okay, who was the son of the ruler during his time. Okay, not very important, but just to get the context, remember the idea. Okay, with the expansion of Macedonia under Alexander, Aristotle returned to Athens and founded his own school, the Lyceum, in 335 BC. Okay, though Aristotle was teacher of Alexander the Great, the ideology or the vision of both did not align together. Okay, like Aristotle believed in the expansionary policy. He wanted to conquer the entire world, whereas Aristotle was not in favor of his vision, right? So there was a conflict between the vision of two, and hence Aristotle has to leave the Alexander's place, and he has to return back to Athens to start his own school, which was known as Lyceum, okay, in 335 BC. So Lyceum is something very important, as academy was the institution of Plato, Lyceum was related to the Aristotle, okay. These things needs to be taken into consideration, right? So let's continue further. Aristotle was and is known as father of political science, okay, as Socrates, the teacher of Plato, known as father of philosophy. Then again Plato, the teacher of Aristotle, known as father of political philosophy. Aristotle, the student of Plato, known as father of political science, okay. So Aristotle's book Politics remain an important contribution, okay. He is also regarded as the originator of many important ideas like the rule of law, deliberative democracy, etc. in Western history, okay. So there might be a question which might be arising in your brain as well, right? Like as we have seen in Plato series that Plato has also written a magnum opus, that is Republic, okay. And but why the Republic is not considered as the best book of political science, but why politics is considered, and hence Aristotle is known as father of political science, okay. Why Plato is not known as father of political science? This is very valid and genuine question. So answer here is that the Plato's magnum opus, that is Republic, is kind of encyclopedic in nature, okay, which covers a varied variety of topic, a diverse variety of topics from different streams and interest. Whereas Aristotle's magnum opus, that is Politics, mainly deals with political science, okay, and subject related to the political science. Hence it is considered as the best book or the best work ever formulated or written on political science is Politics, okay. And hence Aristotle is regarded as the father of political science in the Western history. So this is the distinction between why Plato is not considered as the father of political science. Plato is known as father of political philosophy, okay, and Aristotle is known as father of political science, right? So Aristotle is considered as the greatest disciple of Plato, okay, because Plato himself regarded Aristotle as the mind of academy, okay, mind of academy. This particular statement needs to be remembered. Plato regarded Aristotle as the mind of academy, okay, as well as the greatest critic of Plato, okay. So Aristotle can also be labeled as a Peter who also denied his teacher, okay. Though Aristotle was the best and greatest disciple of Plato, he was also the best and greatest critic of Plato as well, okay. So actually he is not critic of Plato, but trying to address the defects in the thoughts of Plato, okay. So basically this is what a student as a legacy continue in any institution, right? Because he knows his teacher well in depth, and hence Aristotle emerged as a greatest disciple to address the defects of his teacher, right? That's why Aristotle is known as the greatest disciple as well as the greatest critic of Plato, okay. So let's see some of the label or some of the veneration which is assigned on Aristotle by various philosophers, okay. So first his own teacher, that is Plato, he called Aristotle as mind of academy, okay. Then Dante, a great political philosopher, again he called Aristotle as the master of those who knows, okay, the master of those who know, right? And Saint Aquinas, he calls Aristotle as the philosopher, okay, the philosopher. And Cicero, he calls, if Plato's prose was silver, Aristotle poetry was a flowing river of gold, okay. So if you will read the magnum opus of Plato, that is Republic, his idea flows like a prose, okay, and hence Cicero is calling that particular prose mentioned in the Republic as silver, but he is also taking into consideration the fact that Aristotle poetry was a flowing river of gold, okay. Why he is assigning this particular element to the work, the magnum opus of Plato and and Aristotle, and where he is, Cicero is making that contrast, we will be seeing in later point of lectures. But just remember, if Plato's prose was silver, Aristotle poetry was a flowing river of gold. Okay, so this can be used as an introduction in any answers related to Aristotle. Okay, it will add a significant value in like answer. So let's see some of the similarities between Aristotle and Plato, right? Like the teacher and the student, or the guru and disciple. Okay, so both belong to Socratic tradition and a critic of the sophist tradition. So when we look at the overall picture, like overview from very above, they both followed the legacy of Socratic tradition, that is through dialectical methods of education or knowledge. Okay, the ideal education. So both belong to the Socratic tradition, and they both were the critics of sophist tradition. Okay, who mainly believed in the idea of sophism, or the teaching of materialistic knowledge. Okay, both give primacy to the state over individual. Okay, as Plato famously called, state is an individual writ large. Okay, here they are more giving emphasis upon the state than the individual. Okay, and this legacy will also be continued by his student, that is Aristotle. Okay, where Aristotle propounds the idea that uh, human or individual are political animals, hence they need a state. State is teleology, like state exists prior to the individual. Okay, so we will be seeing in later point of lecture to give more clarity on this particular statement, that both give primacy to the state over individual. Okay, so third point is both believe in natural inequality. Okay, like as we have seen in the Plato's idea of class division, like myth of metal, that there are three different classes and they have to perform their own set of duties which are assigned to them based on their natural capabilities. The same idea will also be continued by Aristotle. How and where we will see in the later part. Okay, just have a patient and just stick through the lecture. Okay, and also remember his teacher Plato. Okay, like here I am mentioning the idea that Plato was talked or propounded the idea about myth of metal or class division based on natural inequality. Okay, so we have to also take into consideration Plato's idea, because Aristotle was Plato's student. Okay, and he will continue the legacy which was formulated or which was fostered by Plato, his teacher, right? So fourth similarities is both equate poverty with ignorance. Okay, so they both basically assign the cause of poverty as ignorance, like in the case of allegory of cave in Plato, that people who are inside the cave chained, they are basically symbolizing the notion of ignorance, right? And which is major cause of corruption, poverty, etc. prevailing in the city state of Athens, right? So Aristotle will also continue the same legacy, and he will also equate poverty, the main cause of poverty is ignorance. Okay, and hence suffering. The fifth similarity is both lack faith in masses. Okay, they both are kind of against democracy, right? So let's see some of the differences. Now we have seen some of the similarities, right? Now let's see some of the differences between the guru and disciple, that is Plato and Aristotle. Okay, the basic difference is in their perspective. Okay, perspective in the sense, if Plato is very idealistic in nature, Aristotle, his student, is very pragmatic in nature. Okay, pragmatic in the sense best practicable. Okay, the practical knowledge. So practical knowledge is amalgamation of both practical world plus the ideal world. Like Plato took an extreme way, right, to choose or opt or prioritize ideal world over the material world, right? But here the student Aristotle will use or will take a step of both golden mean. Okay, like golden mean of both ideal state and material state, to give a pragmatic type of knowledge to lead a good and happy life, which was again the ultimate goal of both Plato and Aristotle. Okay, so here there is a basic difference in perspective. What is the basic difference in one word? The ideal in the case of Plato and pragmatic in the case of Aristotle. Okay, this is all about the difference in their perspective. The second difference is, if Plato is idealist, Aristotle is pragmatic. Okay, the more specific notion to the first point. Okay, that is combination of what is pragmatism. Pragmatism is basically combination of idealism and realism. Okay, if Plato, third point is, if Plato is perfectionist, Aristotle believes in moderation, golden mean. Okay, as we have seen in Plato's idealist concept, that he is to the point to the idealistic. He is not willing to accept anything less than a philosopher king. Okay, he always opted for a way to be a perfectionist. Okay, if he is electing a philosopher king for as a ruler in Athens, he need a perfectionist philosopher king, whereas Aristotle propounds the idea that we cannot forego or we cannot let go of the good for the sake of best, because best cannot be achieved easily. That's why he is rendering more pragmatic approach, which is a golden mean of idealism and realism. Okay, he is basically taking a path of Madhyam Marga of Buddha. Okay, to give you an Indian context, you will be able to understand the notion well. Okay, a golden mean, basically a Madhyam Marg of both idealism plus realism. Okay, that is what was the approach or perspective of Aristotle. The four differences: if Plato is radical, Aristotle is conservative. Okay, if Plato is radical in the sense, Plato wants to change everything. Okay, Plato wants to throw out the government prevailing in the Athens, like democracy, and he wants to establish a king, or the rulership of philosopher king. Whereas Aristotle is conservative. Conservative are the people who try to maintain status quoism or status quoist approach. Okay, they do not want a revolution, because the basic notion behind this idea is that Plato is a conservative in nature. He do not want to let go of property, accumulated wealth, and etc., because it also act as a motivation for people to work. If something like a revolution happens, and if accumulated wealth and property and etc. get lost, then people will ultimately lose motivation to work, and hence there are chances that they will become more anarchic in nature and start fighting with each other, right? Because man is an individual with passion. Okay, we have our own set of passions to accumulate wealth, to accumulate property, and etc., right? So that's why Aristotle here is taking more pragmatic, more practical approach, and is conservative in nature, so as to ensure there is a status quoist existence in this society. Okay, so remember the term status quoist. Okay, whoever will be the conservative, they will also be a kind of status quoist. They do not want a kind of revolution or overnight overthrow of the regime or the government. Okay, the fifth difference is, if Plato believes in ultimate knowledge, Aristotle believes in common sense. Okay, like in Plato's theory of knowledge, we have seen how the ultimate knowledge or the knowledge of good is the most important for a philosopher king or anyone in the Athens. But Aristotle believes in common sense, a more pragmatic way of knowledge, right? So he is not, because as per Aristotle, it is not possible to have a knowledge about the ideal things, because people tend to learn something which they can experience through their senses. Okay, and the ideal thing or the good cannot be easily perceived by the human being, and hence Aristotle propounds the idea that hence the ideal things cannot be easily experienced or seen by the people. It will not be very easy for people to understand that, right? And hence he gives more pragmatic approach, that is a commonsensical way of education or knowledge, right? The sixth point is, according to Aristotle, ruler need not to be wise in the world of ideas, rather he has to be worldly wise. Okay, so as in the case of Plato generally believes in the idea that ruler have to be a wise, okay, in the world of idea. He have to be best in the world of ideas. He has to be a good, like he has to be best at the knowledge of good, okay, a knowledge of form. But in contrast to that, Aristotle is propounding the idea that it is not necessary for ruler to be a wise in the world of ideas, rather he can be a worldly wise. worldly wise in the sense a more commonsensical way of knowledge. He should be able to perceive a common sense which is prevailing among the masses or in the city state of Athens. Okay, so that is these are the set of basic differences between a teacher, that is Plato, and a student, Aristotle. Okay, both belonging to same tradition, that is Socratic tradition, but how there is fundamental differences between both of them, because Aristotle was the student of Plato and he somewhere knew the defects which was inherent in the Plato's theory. Okay, and he somewhere tried to follow the legacy by solving the defects which were inherent in Plato's theory. Okay, and hence he became the father of political science, right? Because he is giving more pragmatic and more holistic perspective over political science, right? So let's see what are the magnum opus of Aristotle, right? Magnum opus in the sense which are the best work of Aristotle. Like for the best work of Plato is Republic, the magnum opus of Aristotle is Politics. Okay, Politics is again a book, so first textbook in political science. Okay, it is regarded as the first textbook in political science, and Plato's Republic is not considered as the first book because Republic is the book of encyclopedic in nature, whereas politics deal exclusively with politics, state and constitution. Okay, as I have told you why Plato's Republic is not considered as the first book on political science, because it is somewhere encyclopedic in nature which deals with multiplicity of topics, right, from knowledge to ideas to philosopher king to justice to etc. But here the Aristotle's magnum opus, that is Politics, deals exclusively with politics, state and constitution, and his method of knowledge was also very much comparative in nature, very much scientific in nature, where he propounded an idea by comparing the constitution of 158 city states. Okay, he compared the constitution of 158 different city states in order to give his idea. Okay, so there is a kind of scientific support to his theory. Okay, and second work of Aristotle, the magnum opus is single work, that is Politics. The second best work of Aristotle is Nicomachean Ethics. Okay, so Nicomachean Ethics is kind of premise to Politics. Okay, in order to understand politics, we first have to see his ethics. Okay, because Aristotle propounds the idea that without being ethical, we cannot be a political. Okay, I am hoping that you are getting the idea behind it. Okay, so Plato's basic motivation behind giving his theory of politics was to have a good life. Okay, so here Aristotle is trying to establish a correlation that until and unless one is ethical, one cannot lead a good political life and ultimately lead a good political society. Okay, so hence in order to understand his theory of politics, we first have to understand his theory of ethics. Okay, that is Nicomachean Ethics, and hence Nicomachean Ethics become very important in order to comprehend a holistically his theory of politics. Okay, so first we will also be looking at some of the ideas of Nicomachean Ethics before going to the theory of politics, okay, of Aristotle. So Aristotle theory of ethics is all about practical knowledge. Okay, a knowledge to be a worldly wise. Okay, how can we foster a sense of common sense approach within us in order to be a worldly wise? That was a kind of ultimate goal of Aristotle, to lead a good life or a happy life in the society, right? So we will be seeing a Nicomachean Ethics, okay, in detail. So first notion of his theory of Nicomachean Ethics is his theory of idea, knowledge, right? As Plato propounded the theory of idea or knowledge, where the knowledge of good, of form, was the ultimate in case of Plato. Here Aristotle is trying to propound the idea of more practical, more pragmatic approach of knowledge. Okay, so let's see. So as according to Plato, idea exists independently of this world. Okay, as we have seen that there is a form, or there is a idea, and there is a material good, okay, and hence idea exists independently of this world, okay. There is no interconnection between the idea and the material things, okay. So we have to focus more on ideas than the material things. But for Plato, idea is independent of matter, okay. However, according to Aristotle, there is nothing outside this world. Idea is not independent of matter. Idea is present in the matter itself, okay. So this clearly explicits the more pragmatic approach of Aristotle, who is propounding that idea that no, you are mistaken, the idea is not independent of the matter, okay. Idea is present in each and every matter itself. Without there is an idea, there cannot be a matter, as simple as it is, okay. If there is not an idea, for example, if there is not an idea of cowness, there will not be a cow, okay. Cow can be of, let's say, different breed, a Jersey, a Nagori, and etc. But the idea of cowness is similar throughout the breed, okay. This is the very soundful example one can quote in exam, okay. So here we are establishing the notion that the Plato's idea that idea is not independent of matter is very soundful, okay. That idea is present in the matter itself, right. Without idea there cannot be a matter, and vice versa. Without matter there cannot be an idea. There has to be idea in order to have a matter, okay. We cannot ignore the physical world just considering it as the world of illusion, right. In the case of Plato, who tend to assign the material things as the world of illusions, okay. Three men sitting within sitting inside the cave, chained with ignorance, they consider the material things which are moving outside and their shadows are reflecting on the cave. They consider those shadow as the real material things, which was nothing but their illusion in case of Plato. But here in case of Aristotle, he says that we cannot ignore the physical world just considering it as the world of illusion. Why? Because we have to deal with the materialistic things, because we live in tandem with the materialistic things. Hence we cannot completely let go the materialistic things just by considering it as the world of illusions, right. If we do such thing, then it will be our illusion to consider the materialistic things as an illusion, okay. So this again reflects how the pragmatic approach of Aristotle was propounded, right. To understand what is right and wrong, we do not require any special knowledge, we only require common sense, okay. So here beautifully Aristotle is putting, why do we need a common sense, right. To understand what is right and wrong, we do not require any special knowledge, we only need common sense, because common sense is very relative in nature, as right and wrong is very relative in nature. It changes as per temporal and spatial differences, right. Whatever is good for, let's say, China cannot stand good for India, or whatever is good for, let's say, USA cannot stand good in China, right. It will change as per spatial and temporal differences. Similarly, we require common sense, which is also relative in nature, right. Let's say you are stuck in a jungle and there is a bear chasing you. The need of or the requirement of common sense will be different in such scenario as the requirement of common sense in, let's say, in any professional dealing, and hence here common sense also becomes relative, right. So we need the knowledge of common sense in order to understand right and wrong. We do not require any special knowledge that is of idea, of form, and etc., as in the case of Plato, right. So Aristotle classified knowledge into three types. So guys, we are dealing with the theory of idea that is part of Nicomachean Ethics of Aristotle. Nicomachean Ethics is what? His book, okay. So we are dealing with his theory of idea to understand his further theory, which is propounded in his magnum opus, that is Politics, right? Next we will be seeing his theory of state, his theory on laws and etc. So in order to understand those theory, his ethics, that is his theory of idea or knowledge, is kind of premise to those theories, right? It is a kind of pedestal upon which those theories are built, right? So here the theory of knowledge or the idea is the basic structure upon which those all theories of Aristotle has been built upon or constructed upon. Okay, so this is this theory of idea or knowledge is giving us the conceptual clarity that if, let's say, Plato is talking about a state in such and such a manner, what is the premise to that, from where Aristotle is emerging or coming out. Okay, so once we get to know his theory of idea or knowledge, we will be able to understand and comprehend his further theory very much effectively, and it will also help you understand the notion and concepts well, so as to reproduce that in the exam with particular examples and quotes and philosophers. Okay, so this is the basic premise, because Plato, he himself says that in order to understand politics, one has to understand ethics. Okay, and hence they cannot exist in silos. Ethics and politics in case of Aristotle goes hand by hand in order to have a good life, in order to have a good political life as well, right? So we are dealing with his case of Nicomachean ethics or ethics just to understand the politics of Aristotle, as simple as it is. Okay, so Aristotle classified knowledge into three types. Okay, so what are the three types into which Aristotle has classified knowledge? First is pure knowledge, okay, which he labeled as Sophia, which he called pure knowledge as Sophia. Okay, the second is productive knowledge, right? The knowledge which we need to be productive about, let's say, scientific knowledge, technological knowledge, and etc. Those are productive knowledge. And third is practical knowledge, which he called as phronesis. Okay, phronesis we will be seeing in detail, because here phronesis is very important to understand his idea of politics. Okay, because entire premise of politics of Aristotle is based upon practical, pragmatic knowledge of phronesis. Okay, so we will be seeing what a phronesis is. Okay, so let's see what is phronesis. Okay, so just to give it a term definition, phronesis is nothing but a practical knowledge, the knowledge for good life. Okay, very relevant to Aristotle's idea. Okay, what is phronesis? Phronesis is practical knowledge, that is the knowledge of good life. Okay, that's it, nothing very complex or unusual, right? It is the whole premise upon which the Aristotle is built. Okay, phronesis, just remember this term. Usually we say practical knowledge or pragmatic knowledge when it comes to Aristotle. To give it an edge, to give it a more political science language, we can just use the terminology of phronesis. Okay, the approach of Aristotle was phronesis. Okay, so overlap between Aristotle politics and ethics. In order to understand his politics, we have to understand his ethics. Okay, as I have told earlier, there is a kind of correlation between his politics and ethics. In order to lead a good life, that is phronesis, the practical knowledge, a knowledge for good life. We have to also understand ethics in order to understand politics. Simple. Okay, nothing very complex. So okay, so before going to his theory of four causes, that was his phronesis, this was his method to study something. I just want to give some of the context. Okay, some of the context about what. Okay, so what was the method of study of Aristotle? Okay, what was the method, in the sense, what was the method he used? Like Plato used dialectical method to formulate his magnum opus, that is the Republic. Okay, so how Aristotle evolved with his theories in the politics and the Nicomachean ethics. Okay, so first he used empirical means. Okay, that is observed then rationalized. Okay, observe what? Observe the worldly things, the materialistic things. Okay, because as Aristotle propounded the idea that matter, idea and matter are not what, interdependent, they are dependent. Until and unless there is an idea, there cannot be a matter. Okay, hence both idea and matter are interdependent. Hence we have to understand matter in order to understand the idea, right? I have to understand table in order to understand the idea behind the table. Okay, I have to understand cow in order to understand the idea behind the cow. Okay, I have to understand the form of government, that is democracy, in order to understand the idea behind democracy, right? If I don't know what democracy is, how is it humanly possible for me to understand the idea behind democracy, right? Very logical, very simple. Okay, so just to give his notion to how to understand the materialistic thing, he took empirical means, that is observation, then rationalization based method. Okay, that was the first, that is the empirical means. Okay, and second, Aristotle used inductive and deductive methods. Okay, but Plato only used deductive method. In case of Plato, that was his teacher, he used only deductive method. What is deductive method? He used to give more generalized theory first, then he used to deduce and come to the particular theory, right? Let's say dialectics, best example. First they give the general statement what a justice is. Through dialectics, through deliberation, debate, question answering, they come to a particular fact, a particular theory, that is a deductive. So Plato used only deductive method in order to come up with his magnum opus, that is Republic. But here Aristotle is coming up with both inductive plus deductive methods. Okay, we will be seeing what inductive and deductive method is in detail also, which will help you to have a better understanding of his work. Okay, so what is inductive approach? So inductive approach is also considered as a scientific approach. Okay, so why it is considered as a scientific approach, we will see. Okay, so basically it is based on verification. Okay, how it is based on verification? Because it is based on particular to general. Okay, we are taking a particular thing, a hypothesis. Okay, then through various testing, various verification and etc., we are giving a more general theory. Okay, the theory, what is general theory? The theory which is proven again and again and ultimately become a law. Okay, let's see, there is a Newton's law of gravitation. Okay, Newton lying under an apple tree, okay, and there was a thing falling on his head which was apple. He has given a generalized statement that whichever drops falls downwards. Okay, whatever things drops from above, it falls downward. This is more generalized statement. Okay, then they went to the research labs and etc. Then they tested, is it really verifiable? Is it really applicable in different scenario? If I throw something from, let's say, 100 meter, still it falls down. If I throw something from 1 kilometer, is it still falls down? If I throw something from, let's say, a mountain, does it really falls down, or does it fly high? Okay, so these are the kind of test or research which has been done in order to come from a particular to more generalized theory, right? There was an apple falling and which was dropping down on the head of, let's say, Newton. This is more particular thing, right? An apple, an object falling down. But through various testing, various deliberation, various research, they have given a more generalized theory that is the law of gravitation, that whatever falls from a particular height, it basically drops down. This is basically a inductive approach, from a particular to more general thing. Okay, a law, right? In contrast to this, the deductive is coming from more general to more specific thing, to more a particular truth. Okay, so it is, deductive method is generally used in philosophy. Okay, as inductive method is generally used in science, deductive method is generally used in philosophy. Okay, it is applied for the idea. Okay, it is based purely on logic and reason, as in the case of dialectics of Plato and Socrates. Okay, it is not based on experimentation, verification. It is based on a priori assumption. Okay, a priori assumption is what? It is the assumption that you have, that you formulate as an hypothesis, and then you come to a particular fact or truth or theory. Okay, for example, Plato's world of idea. Okay, the principle is form generalization to particular. Okay, first theory is established and scientific examples are used to support the theory. Okay, so first basically they have a kind of general idea. Okay, a kind of general, let's say, statement. Then they support their theory by various facts, by through various examples, scientific supports and etc. And then they come to a particular fact or theory. That is basically a deductive method. Okay, so let's now we have understood his method, that was empirical method, and inductive and deductive method. Okay, he used all the three methods, whereas Plato used only a deductive method, that is through dialectics. Okay, so this is also one of the differences which can be inculcated when it comes to Aristotle and Plato. Okay, now he has given his Aristotle's theory of four causes. So now we are dealing with his theory of knowledge. Okay, so in order to have the practical knowledge which Aristotle is trying to propound, he is giving the theory of four causes. Okay, so he is giving a particular theory through which we can have that more practical or pragmatic knowledge. Okay, pragmatic knowledge of what? Pragmatic knowledge of golden mean of both matter and idea. Okay, if we see a matter, how can we reach to the true knowledge of that particular matter? Okay, in order to reach to that true knowledge of that particular matter, he is giving his theory of four causes. So let's see what is his theory of four causes. Okay, so basically Aristotle held that we can gain knowledge even by looking at the worldly things. Okay, as Plato said that worldly thing is nothing but a illusion. Okay, there is nothing to do, there is no relation, or there is no relation between the worldly thing and the ideal thing. Okay, they exist independent of each other. Okay, but here the Aristotle is propounding, alluding the idea that we can gain knowledge even by looking at the worldly things. Okay, so how can we gain knowledge? Okay, how can we gain knowledge by looking at the worldly thing? Okay, so here Aristotle is propounding four causes. Okay, four causes, like four ways we can see at the things to gain the knowledge about the worldly things or the material things. First is the material cause. Okay, material cause. What is material cause? To understand the material composition of a thing. Okay, what is meant by to understand the material composition of thing? Okay, so it is basically to understand that a particular thing is made up of which matter. Okay, let's say for example there is a table. Table is made up of what? Table is made up of wood. Okay, so wood is here a material cause. Okay, basically we are trying to understand what is the material composition of a particular thing. Okay, let's say if I see a laptop, what is the material composition of it? It is basically a fiber, then various electrical parts and etc. These are material composition of it. Okay, and hence it is a material cause, right? So what is the logic behind understanding the material cause of anything, any material thing? The logic behind understanding the material cause is to understand the use of it. Okay, let's say if there is a table made up of wood, I cannot take this particular table near to the fire because there are chances that that fire can burn this wood. Okay, so hence it is giving me a knowledge about this, the nature of this particular table, that it is a kind of feeble in nature. It can be broken, it can be cut down, it can be fired upon and etc. Hence it becomes imperative for us to understand the material cause of the worldly things, because every worldly thing is made up of some matter, okay, some material, and hence it becomes imperative for us to understand the material cause of something. That is the one cause. Okay, what are the three other cause? The second cause is formal cause. Okay, what is formal cause? Formal cause is nothing but to understand the shape or form of any material thing. Okay, because even shape or form tells us about the purpose of an object. Okay, let's say if there is a object which is cylindrical in shape, okay, cylindrical in form, in what different ways it can be used? Let's say we can use it as a roller. Okay, what chapati roller, first use. We can also use that as an, let's say, flower base, or we can use that as a container to store something, right? So it becomes imperative for us or important for us to understand the formal cause. What is formal cause? To understand the shape or form of a particular object, right? The third cause is efficient cause. What is efficient cause? Efficient cause is to know who has made it. Okay, let's say if there is a wooden table, who has made that? A carpenter, right? Why do we need to know the efficient cause? That is, who has made it? Because by knowing the efficient cause, we can also know the dexterity or the nature of the table, right? Let's say if a carpenter has made it, there are chances that he will use a wooden leg to support the table. He can use different type of material to support the table. He can use his dexterity to beautify the table. We can know what are the chances that he has used a particular equipment to sharpen that wood, and etc. Right? So by knowing the efficient cause, we can also know about the different nature of the particular object or the material thing. Okay, so first is the material cause, second is the formal cause, third is the efficient cause. So let's see what is the last cause. So last cause is final cause. Okay, what is the final cause? To know the teleology or the final purpose. Okay, so the most important thing to know about something is the teleology. Okay, teleology is the final purpose. A table final purpose is what? To know that final purpose, we have to understand the final cause of something. Okay, so teleology, we know the teleology or the final purpose. So what is teleology here? Okay, so teleology means the ultimate purpose. Okay, so there is also a school of ethics, that is teleology. Okay, so what is teleology? Teleology is action based on the final purpose. Okay, what is the final purpose? If final purpose is good, I will be doing particular action. Okay, if a final teleo or if a final purpose of a table is good, in that case I will produce a table. Let's say if a final purpose of a nuclear bomb or nuclear weapon is not good, okay, there are chances that I will not produce nuclear weapon. Again, if it is if the final purpose of nuclear weapon is good, that is to create a deterrent, there are some chances that I will produce that just to secure my own border or to create a deterrence on the enemy. Okay, so it is becoming very imperative to also know the teleological or final cause of my material, so as to know what is the final purpose of it, and on the basis of that I will decide, or one can decide, whether to produce it or not, whether to learn about it or not, whether to accept it or not. Okay, that is the important of final cause. But why do we need to know the teleology? Okay, because teleology is to explain why this world is world of change. Okay, even Plato understood this method as a world of change, and that is why Plato ignored the study of changing world. Okay, that is why, as we know that this world is a world of change, right? That's why Plato proposed the idea of the knowledge of the true or the knowledge of the idea. because he knew the point that if you learn something today, tomorrow it will completely change, because this world is constantly changing. There is nothing permanent here. That is, everything is relative. The only permanent thing is the knowledge of idea, the knowledge of supreme true, right? That was the logic behind, that was the teleo behind Plato's theory of what? Knowledge. So see how you can connect this cotton thread from one end to another end, right? I am looking from the theory of four causes, the Plato's theory of knowledge, right? What was Plato's theory of knowledge? To study the true knowledge, that is idea. So what could be a possibility that Plato rejected the notion of materialistic thing? Because Plato knew this materialistic thing is constantly changing, and hence there cannot be a permanent or true knowledge which can be attained through materialistic things. Hence he ignored the materialistic things and focused more upon the knowledge of idea or the supreme true, right? So that is the final cause or teleo of Plato's theory of knowledge from the perspective of final cause of whom? Aristotle's theory of four causes. Okay, this is again the example which can be quoted to make it transcendental and universal. Okay, so this knowledge can only be about idea, hence Plato study only the world of idea. Okay, so this was all about today, guys. So what we have seen, his theory of we have seen the life and time of Aristotle, we have seen his theory of knowledge. Okay, we have seen his theory of four causes. So this was the basic premise of Nicomachean ethics, and next lecture onwards we will be seeing the politics. Okay, his theories from politics. Okay, so just to understand or to build that particular premise over which his political theories is to be built upon, we have to give more importance to, equal importance if not more, to this section of Nicomachean ethics as well, because as per Aristotle, ethics and politics exist simultaneously in tandem, okay, to have a good life or meaningful life in society, right? So just a question, guys, mention down the just 4 different causes which was proposed by Aristotle in the comment section. Okay, what are different 4 causes? And it would be lovely if you guys also come up with an political example for each of the 4 causes. Okay, let's say what is a material cause? Okay, what is the efficient cause? What is a final cause? Write down the political example, not a general example. Okay, and do leave that in the comment. So that's it for today, people. I'll again come back with the next lecture very soon, and thank you so much for sitting till the end, and I hope that you guys might have gotten some important perspective upon Aristotle's Nicomachean ethics, and hoping that you guys will strive each day in order to thrive better in the future and present as well. Okay, so keep striving, and all the very best. Thank you.